Hey guys, welcome back to Check Your Leader TV. Today what we're going to do now is we're going to go on with the battle of WEISSENFELs. This is a follow-up to my previous video, which was planning a battle. So you'll see a link in the description below. If you haven't seen that video, I suggest you look at that one first, because otherwise it's probably not going to make a lot of sense. In that previous video, I basically explained the methodology that I use when formulating a battle plan and explained what my deployment would be. What we're going to go on with now is I've got the troops deployed on the table. I'll do a bit of a flyby over the table. You can have a look at the terrain, and then what will happen is I will piece together a after action report of the battle that is played between Rowan and myself. It won't be a detailed battle report. It won't be turn by turn. Every individual dice roll. It will just simply be a collection of some video snippets and some still photos and me explaining what happened over the course of the battle. So no spoilers. I'm not going to tell you how it played out. I'll just show you the table first, show you the deployment of my troops. Rowan will come along, he'll put his troops down on the table, and then we'll have at, and then we'll see how it plays out. Okay, so without further ado, let's have a look at the table. So here's the battlefield, and the troops are on the table. Well, my troops are deployed. Obviously, I'm just deploying them here to show you initially what the deployment will look like. Ignore the battery, that's not there yet. Essentially, what will happen is I'll put my deployment markers out, and then Rowan will do his scouting, and then once the scouting's done, his troops will go down. Or sorry, my scouted troops will go down, his troops will go down, my unscouted troops will go down, and then we'll have it. But essentially, this is what I'm going for. I will probably put, because I'm Russians and I have Cossacks, that means I can put down one token or hidden deployment token per brigade that's on table, plus a dummy. Plus, because I'm Cossacks I've got Cossacks and I'm defending, I can put out an additional token. So I'll probably put a couple of tokens over here, a couple of tokens in the center, and a couple off onto the right, and hopefully he won't scout out too much, and I won't have to put down too much initially. So here is the village of Ripak. There's the Ripak stream. There is the village of Grohen. That's a tactical objective for the French. If they capture that, it's like making one of my brigades go hesitant. I'll be permanently rolling an additional die for initiative, which is a bad thing. And so basically that's what the terrain looks like. That's the village of Rocken. That's the objective for the French. If they can get a unit there within 14 turns, they automatically win. And this is the built-up area around Stroswitz. There's the ford. There's another ford here. And then we have a bridge here and a bridge here. Okay. With that said, what we'll do now is we will wait for Rowan to arrive, and then we'll crack on from there. Okay guys, this I'm filming, this is after the game, but I'm doing this now because I want to show you how the scouting and the deployment worked out. You already know how I was going to deploy, and I've deployed as such. Rowan then came along and commenced scouting. He scouted out a dummy token successfully, so that revealed a dummy, so that didn't help him. He then scouted out this Jaeger brigade, and that was placed down on the table, so he knew where my Jaeger brigade was. He then attempted to scout out some cavalry tokens, but he was unsuccessful and he didn't see anything there. So it revealed, he was successful in revealing one of my deployed brigades. He then deployed as followed. He put down his light infantry brigade with the artillery attached to it, the artillery on the hill, the skirmishers off the hill and along the stream, and then 1 battalion of light infantry in garrisoning the village of Stroswitz, and then the other 2 battalions either side. The line infantry brigade, they deployed with their skirmishers facing off across the Ribak stream towards Gothen, and 3 battalions on the left and 1 battalion on the right, and they were all in column. Okay, so that was the deployment. So let's now crack on. I'll show you some footage from the game and some still photos, and I'll explain how it all played out.
Now, just before we start, I'm going to have to use some substitute troops. I haven't painted up all the Russian cavalry that I require for this game, so I'm using, for the Hussar Brigade, I'm going to use Russian regular Cossacks, Russian Lancers, and Prussian Hussars. And for the mixed brigade of Dragoons and Lancers, I'm using Prussian Dragoons and Prussian Lancers. For the Russian Horse Artillery Battery, I'm going to use a large Prussian battery. And for the Cossacks, I'm going to use Wargame Foundry's 7 Years War Russian Cossacks, but they'll do, they're close enough.
I will. Glorious day in Bendigo.
All right, so all the deployment's done. You scouted out, you managed to scout out the Jaegers.
Yeah, I got two scouts, which is excellent. And the
So
Hussars,
which one did you scout out? You scouted out the dummy.
Jaeger and a dummy.
And then you were unsuccessful with the third scout.
And your Cossacks from the campaign leaked in. They're like, oh, he's a bad.
All right, cool. All right.
Recovering from last night's looting.
Okay, so I should add here there is a scenario-specific rule. It actually covers the whole campaign. At the beginning of any battle, the Allied player rolls a d6. On a roll of 5 or 6, the Russian Cossacks are active, and it denies the French player a scouting roll. It takes one of them away.
And there's no bold brigade commanders, but there's one poor one, which is the Cossacks.
Yeah, well, you get that.
Yeah, you always get that on there.
Lovely day in Bendies. Here we go. Just click a point and then I get it later.
Yeah, so now I guess we roll for our ADC availability. So I've got my 5 here.
I've got 5 with 1.
And I scored 3.
I've got 5 dice.
3 AD camps.
A 6.
You got 4.
4.
Yeah.
And I can't re-roll the 2 because my AD comp doesn't count.
Yes, that's right. Your adjutant will only help you with a 1.
So I got 4 to 3.
You got 4, and I got 3.
Just contour here.
Yeah.
Actually, we can actually cross.
They just have to stop 3 inches from the BUA.
Yeah.
And any enemy, because they're skirmishes.
Yeah, unless I know the garrisons. I think you ignore the 3-inch. I could be wrong.
You can go right to the wall.
I think you ignore the 3-inch roll if you're in the garrison. You ignore the 3-inch roll.
Yeah.
Rule 11.2.1 on page 61, deploying the brigade skirmish line. Skirmishers may not operate closer than the standard 3-inch minimum distance to enemy units. And I think a garrison would be classed as an enemy unit.
Dudes trying to basically just nail me crossing that bridge. It's a bit ugly. Let's just focus our love. Actually, what we might do is they're going to shoot them. Now let's see if we get enough of those shooting at them. They can shoot them or shoot at them. Yeah, let's do, or they can actually go there. And they can go there and put the love on them. So it's going to be 12, right, for shooting?
Yes, 12.
So I could swap these. These go to there. Short to there, and they got here, and lined off here, which we can't touch you because you're in a fucking...
That's right. Can't touch this.
But there would be 2 lots of skirmishes and artillery assaults taking on some Jaegers in the woods. Hopefully making their life.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that would be good. So, let's see how Ryan... So Ryan can just move these guys...
So what Rowan was effectively doing here, he was taking the brigade skirmish line from the line brigade, moving it to his right flank so that he could mass both skirmish lines from both brigades in front of the woods where my Jaegers were deployed. That gave him the ability to have 2 brigade skirmish lines plus the artillery battery on the hill firing into the woods at the Jaeger battalion that was in there. And that resulted in the first turn of the game, inflicting 6 casualties on that Jaeger unit that was in the woods, and basically reducing them to worn status in the space of just 1 turn. End of turn 1.
Yeah, how are we marking turns, Scott? How do you want to do that?
I've got a little thing here, and you should have one behind your, somewhere back there as well.
The dial of action. So we're up to turn 2. Lovely.
All right.
Four. I've got a reroll.
No, it didn't help you.
2.
All right. So I've got 4. You've got 2. All right.
2's good. I can handle 2.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm going to do with 4. 4. My artillery arrives.
Yeah, at the baseline in the town, and you drive them.
So at the start of turn 2, actually I'll go back a bit. The only movement the Russians that I really did in turn 1 was I moved my far left cavalry brigade, which is that Hussar brigade, which is made up of a Russian regular Cossack unit and those Prussian Hussars. They moved up on the left-hand side. They advanced 15 inches. I was concerned that he might try to push across the ford, and I also didn't want to... I wanted to move them forward so they were out of arc of his artillery on the hill. Despite the fact that I had 4 ADCs and Rowan had only 2, when we rolled for initiative, he rolled a 12. Not only did it give him the initiative, but it also gave him another CNC command. So he's now got 3 versus my 1. In addition to that, my Hussar brigade that I'd moved up in turn 1 promptly went hesitant. Because they were now hesitant, this seemed to indicate to Rowan that now might be a good opportunity for him to push on my left flank, his right.
3's handy, actually.
Yeah, it's very handy.
3's very good.
There should be an upper limit on them, quite frankly.
No, I need mini.
Okay, so...
Well, if my cup of tea must be ready. I need a cup of tea.
So here we can see a map at the situation at the beginning of turn 2. And we see here, this is where the Hussar brigade is, and these guys are hesitant currently, which is, seems to be the trigger for spurring the French to cross the ford.
Considering I got them to 6 in 1 turn, but it was good shooting with an artillery assault.
Yeah, I mean, it was like...
They're not going to last long.
The shooting was up the charts. So, all right, so, yeah, so anyway, any charge decks?
Well, I don't have to charge to move those skirmishers out of the way. Just a simple move would make the difference.
Yeah.
They just need to cross the bridge, but I need to just do some more damage to you first.
Yeah.
Now, if I had a few more counters, which I didn't, I would have had a forward action on my...
Okay, so no charges. I got no charges. Movement. Tactical movement first. So they're going to reform. That's them done. Any other movement?
Formation change.
Yeah. So what we see here is Rowan's putting one of his line infantry battalions in line formation. This is from the line brigade. I wasn't too sure why he was doing this, but I think the idea was to extend the frontage of that line infantry brigade as much as he could so that he could then project his skirmish line further to the right.
Get the pressure on them. Now, do I cross the bridge? Because you don't have a lot of assets hesitant at brigade. So now it's the time to cross the bridge.
No.
Because it is.
All right. Come across.
I know, someone's going to come across sooner or later.
Yeah.
It's going to get ugly, but you know.
So it's...
Nine.
So you put the front thing down, I'll move my guys back 3 inches. About 3 inches there.
Actually, I've gone back. I should really. We can go back forward again if you want.
Yeah, let's have a look.
And these guys. Oh, if I go into square, I don't get support anyway, so there's no point doing that.
Yes. They're in column.
They're in column, and that's close enough.
Yeah.
It's actually not too shabby.
All right, so the first troops have come across. So in the turn phase of, the movement phase of turn 2, Rowan pushed his light infantry battalion across, one of his light infantry battalions from this brigade across the ford. So he had one battalion still as the garrison, one came up to the edge of the Riback stream, and the third battalion crossed the ford. Also in the movement phase, he moved his skirmishers from the line infantry battalion further across to the right, with a view to, I suspect, aiding the firefight around the woods and the marsh. Because he had the initiative, he'd move first. What I then did in my movement phase is I moved my skirmishers, the brigade skirmish line, to basically cover the head of this column that had crossed at the ford, and this light infantry battalion in skirmish order orientated to pour as much fire onto that French Leger battalion as we possibly could. Net result, 2 casualties from my light infantry Jaegers, and then the brigade skirmish screen inflicted another 4 casualties. So they were reduced to 1 in the space of 1 turn of firing. So as much as Rowan's firing was brilliant in turn 1, in turn 2 I was able to return the favour, and it appears that my fear that the most dangerous course of action that the French could do was pushing on my left flank, or their right, that seemed to be happening, or was it?
So at the start of turn 3, is it turn 3 now, isn't it?
Yeah,
start of turn 3. So the skirmish fire from the French has been blistering. So they've been shooting very well, as you can see by the casualties. And then they tried to come across the bridge here and met some pretty good fire from these Jaegers.
Oh, exceptional fire, actually.
Yeah.
He did about 6 casualties in one roll with 2 units.
Yeah.
It was rather good, I thought.
Yeah, 4 and 2.
So now we're at the start of turn 3, and in the reserve movement phase, the Marie Louises of the 21st Infantry Regiment have arrived. Now, you might know, if you look at the scenario, some troops are also scheduled to arrive at the start of turn 2 for the French. But Rowan basically kept that brigade off table. Now, is that infantry regiment, French infantry regiment, number 21 or 22? Well, it's obviously not 22 because he's 22. Is it number 21 or is it the cavalry brigade? We don't know. But he kept one brigade back. Start of turn 3, he does bring one brigade on, and bring one brigade on, and it's the French Marie Louises with their attached artillery. So they arrive, and they come on directly behind the bridge to the that is south of Grohen. So they arrive there. We'll now skip forward to the commencement of turn 4. At turn 4, what happens is Rowan decides that he will use one of his chief CNC tasks and plays post of honour, and in the charge phase declares a charge with this Marie Louise Brigade of the 21st Infantry Regiment, and essentially what happens is a battalion comes charging across the stream and attacks this BUA. They have with them another battalion coming in behind. Anyone knows the rules in regards to assaults on BUAs, however, realise that only the lead battalion goes in. There's no charge procedure. The battalion just simply goes into the assault. Anyway, regardless, this is now a recruit battalion assaulting a reservist battalion in a garrison. He has glory times 2 because it's a post of honour.
and they assault the BUA. The garrison fires and only inflicts one casualty, so in they go. Fortunately for the Russians, however, they managed to beat the. Well, actually, they don't beat them. They get a draw result, and the French decide that it's probably a better option to not try and take the BUA. Consequently, the French, when we go through the fight-on procedure, they decide to withdraw. So the battalions come back, tumbling across the bridge. For the Russians, for their part, they just stand their ground, and in the next turn, what the Russians do is they swap out the battalions and put a fresh battalion inside the BUA. As the game proceeded, eventually what happened is the French dominated the firefight here in the woods and in the marsh with their skirmishes, and the Jaeger battalions basically fell back one at a time, withdrew to the second line, and the French light infantry screens from the line, the line brigade and the light brigade took up positions in the woods and in the marsh, and then the skirmishers from the Marie Louise brigade, they basically moved up into a position to pepper away at the Russian garrison. So another point of or notable event that occurred during turn 3 was the Russian horse artillery deployed and was preparing to open fire, but the French had the initiative. They fired first. Their battery on the hill decided that the Russian horse artillery battery looked like a pretty good target. They rolled their dice, scored 12. That inflicted quite a number of casualties on the battery, and also compelled it to do a discipline test, which it promptly failed, but only just, and went unformed. But the 12 did result in a destiny roll. That destiny roll resulted in the brigade commander being rendered hors de combat, killed, and causing the brigade to immediately falter. The very following turn, when I rolled for my aide-de-camps, as luck would have it, I got 1. That 1 automatically had to be sent to the divisional commander because of the brigade morale, which meant I had no re-roll ability for my faltering brigade. Realising that that was a risk that I just could not bear to take, I used my CNC command and used Chief of Staff, and that gave me enough aide-de-camps that I was able to give the faltering brigade a re-roll. And lucky I did, because when I rolled for them on the Savkipe table, the brigade rolled a 1, which would have seen it the whole brigade flee from the table. Fortunately, my re-roll generated a 6, so they rallied straight away. So I was fortunate in regards to that. But now I had no CNC tasks or CNC commands available, and the French, they still had 3. Okay, so for the next 2 turns, what I did, I focused predominantly on was getting my Jaegers to fall back to the second line and just keep rolling back. So with 3 battalions, I basically would give one a retire to the second line, a second battalion just step back 3 inches because I deployed them in line, and the other battalion would just stand. And so one would go back by withdraw, one would step back, one would stand. Withdraw, step back, stand, withdraw, step back, stand, until I got my Jaegers back quite a ways. They were fortunate insofar that as long as they stayed within 12 inches of the woods, they were not receiving too much fire from the French artillery battery. But it seemed to be more concerned with shooting at my battery than at the retreating Jaegers. The other thing I did is I also deployed forward my
Cossacks. So they moved up in support of the reserve brigade on my right flank, because I was concerned that at some point the French line brigade might push on my right from the French left, that is to say. Other than that, there was just a lot of skirmish fire and artillery fire up until turn 6. And at turn 6, the French used another CNC task. They used a chief of staff. This gave them an abundance of aide-de-camps, and they used that to use reserve and forwards, and on came the French cavalry. And they came bursting across the ford opposite the village of Straswitz and into that open ground on the Russian left. He had wrong-footed me. My dragoons, I had positioned behind my battery because I was concerned that my Jaegers might completely give way, and there was some demonstration on the Russian right around Goren. But when the French cavalry came across, yes, this caused a bit of concern for me.
So this is the situation at the start of turn 7. I'm going to recreate it using my own miniatures because this is during the actual game. I was so caught up in it, I actually didn't take footage, so I'm going to just recreate here what happened. These French dragoons are the stand-ins for the Battens. They're the battle cavalry line morale. These guys here are campaign cavalry line morale. They came across the ford and then they split. The dragoons faced off towards the Russian Hussar Brigade and the 10th Hussars. I'm using the 7th Hussars for this recreation. They split it off and faced towards the Russian Lancers and Dragoon Brigade. In the charge phase, the French had the initiative. They declared a charge with the Hussars with glory. So the brigade commander attached and they went charging off. Now, that prevented the Dragoons from charging because you can only have one target per brigade per turn. So they've charged towards the Prussian Lancers. When it came time for the Russians to declare their charges, the Hussar Brigade, their brigade commander had attached to these Hussars, so they had glory and an ADC attachment. So they declared a charge on these chaps, these dragoons here. So they charged them. They were already 6 inches apart, so no movement was required. Long story short, what we had a situation was the Russian Hussar Brigade charging the Baden Dragoons and the 10th Hussars charging the Russian Dragoon Lancer Brigade. Essentially what happened is the French lost both of these combats. Both units were sent back across the ford, which caused their brigade to falter. Enter CNC command number 3, and the French were able to use a sub-kip instead of having to roll on the faltering brigade table and risk a sub-kippe. They used stand with me, and the brigade automatically rallied. But this threat from the French cavalry had been nullified, and they'd been driven back across onto the other side of the Ripac stream. So now it was the beginning of turn 8. The French cavalry assault had been defeated and driven back across the Ripac. The French now used their final ace up their sleeve and committed their final brigade of infantry. At the same ford that the French cavalry had advanced over and been tumbled back across, the Marie-Louises now crossed that ford. However, not before one single Leger battalion from the Light Brigade decided to cross the ford ahead of them. They came across the ford and wheeled right to take up the position that the French dragoons
had originally been in. This prompted the Russian regular Cossacks to charge them, but they formed square and stood valiantly. The Russian cavalry then simply withdrew from the charge on the square and went back 2 feet and rallied in a position quite a ways back from the stream. However, this still left the Dragoon and Hussar brigade in a pretty good position to face the Marie Louises that had crossed at the ford. So they came across the ford and broke into attack columns and advanced towards the objective of Rokon. Standing in their way, however, was the Russian cavalry brigade of Prussian dragoons and lancers. A stalemate pretty much ensued at that point, with the French skirmishers reluctant to go forward because they were not capable to go within 6 inches of the French cavalry, and if they did, they would have simply been charged and sent packing. And the French columns could not charge the Prussian cavalry. With the stalemate now on the French right or the Russian left, the Marie Louises of the 22nd Regiment, opposite the village of Goren, decided to chance their arm again and go across. At the same time, a single battalion from the Line Regiment that was in the village of Ripak decided to charge forward out of the village and into the solitary reservist battalion that was on the Russian right flank. This battalion was in line formation, and as the French column came towards them, they delivered a devastating volley, a roll to 10. This caused the French battalion to tumble back across over the bridge back in through the village of Ripak. The attack on the Russian right flank had also been thrown back now. The Marie Louises crossing near Goren received a lot of skirmish fire from the garrison, but more importantly, the Russian horse artillery battery was able to pour fire into them. Adding to the woe, the Cossacks, now freed up from supporting the reservists on the right, wheeled to come in behind the garrison at Goren, and basically between the artillery, the garrison, and the Cossacks forming a circle around the central bridge, there really seemed little chance for the French to continue their advance. It was now turn 11, and Rowan decided that it would be pointless to try to advance any further. There was no way they were going to get through on the left, on their left. The central bridge near Goren was nothing but a death trap, and there was no way that they were going to be able to push through in time on the right. A point of note, the French cavalry brigade, with 2 units retreating from their attempt to get across, obviously caused the brigade to falter. However, enter CNC Command Number 3. They were able to, the French divisional commander was able to play a stand with me, and they automatically rallied. So at turn 11, we decided to call it quits, or should I say the French decided that the advance was not to go any further, and that ended the battle. Campaign-wise, the Russians get a point out of it. They won the battle. For the French, the only real downside is in the second battle of the campaign, they will not be able to promote 2 of their recruit battalions. Not a big deal, and ultimately a great game. my battle plan was that I considered the most likely course of action for the French would be to try to come across the two bridges either side of the village of Goren and capture that. And initially, that appeared to be the case because very early on the French launched a post of honour assault on the built-up area. But I was fortunate that they were able to hold on enough to cause that assault to not be successful. Rowan then switched to what I consider the most dangerous course of action for me, which was sending his cavalry across on the Russian left flank. That could have come off. He had wrong-footed me. I had my central cavalry brigade in an awkward position, trying to support both my horse artillery and cover the withdrawal of the Jaegers, leaving them somewhat vulnerable. And the French cavalry it looked like they were going to exploit that. But fortunately for me, instead of both cavalry regiments wheeling to their right and knocking out the Hussar Brigade, and then maybe trying to deal with the Dragoon Lancer Brigade later, they decided to chance their arm and try to take out both. And that worked in my favour. I was able to defeat the French cavalry. A very, very close run thing. I think the moment of decision was when the French cavalry came across and then the two regiments separated. I think if they'd stayed together and gone either towards the Lancers and Hussars rather than towards the Lancers and Dragoons, if they concentrated on one, they might well have defeated one. And yes, maybe they would have in turn been defeated, but they always had that commander-in-chief task up the sleeve where they could have been rallied and then sent back across again with the infantry. But wisdom is 20/20 in this, and ultimately it was a great game and a good learning and teaching experience for both myself and Rowan. A really, really enjoyable game and a tough battle that could have easily gone either way. So now what I'll do is I'll just show you a little bit of a diagram, a map, to show you exactly how the battle ended from a top-down view, and then we'll wrap it up from there. So here you can see basically we have the Line Brigade. They had gone forward. This battalion had attacked these Russians here and been driven back. We're still holding the village of Goren. The Marie Louise's, the 22nd Regiment, they'd tried, and this is as far as they'd got. The Marie Louise's, the 22nd Regiment, the 21st Regiment, they had got forward here in their attack columns, but that was as far as they were going. It is worth noting this French cavalry had rallied and were in a position they could have come back across, but really with 3 turns up their sleeve, the French were still cavalry inferior, and yes, the Jaeger Brigade is in a terrible state, carrying 6, 7, and 8 casualties, but they probably would have held on for another 3 turns, and so that's how the battle played out. I'd be really interested to hear what your thoughts are in regards to how the plan that I had put forward. How do you think it stood up? But so let's wrap it up. Okay, guys. So that concludes this 2-part series or 2-part video. How I work out a battle plan and then the actual battle itself via an after action report.
I've got really nothing more to add. That's pretty much it. If you found these two videos useful, please like, share and subscribe. Usual drills. We're going to wrap it up there now, and I'll catch you on the next one. You be quiet.